I don't want to predict anybody to go down. And inevitably, people will talk about the 3 promoted clubs. So we'll do that first of all. Leeds need to make Elland Road a fortress. You know what? I'm worried that they've not splashed the cash, around £30 million so far. The headline from Elland Road yesterday was Dan James signing a new deal. The headlines need to be players coming in to that football club if they'd have any chance of survival. Burnley, great defensively last season. They brought in Kyle Walker and Twan Zabi. You know who's made the biggest impact of the promoted clubs so far, for me, is Sunderland. Because they've shown their ambition. They've gone out. They've spent a lot of money on people like Habib Diarra, Simon Adingra, Ronaldo. I know he came in from a free, but he's got quality from Atletico Madrid. I think of any of those 3 sides, just on the basis of where they are now, I think Sunderland have got the best chance of surviving, which I wouldn't have expected to say at the end of last season.
Yeah. Well, the problem you have, particularly when you get promoted, obviously, I've done that a couple of times. What you get is that you're last port of call, really, in terms of the transfers. So everybody else has to do their business. And you know, he was talking about earlier when we was talking about players going into Arsenal, that some of those players will move. Well, yeah, they will come available later in the window. So teams who come promoted, they are your great catches. Can you go and get one of them? And I think that's what they're all sitting for. They're all probably getting noises that might be available. Like McAteer at the Manchester City, who might go out on loan. That would be like, if I was coming up from below, he's a player that I would want in my squad, a real tight, technical young player that we haven't got. I personally think Leeds this year are going to do it. I think they'll do the business they need to do. I think the home base, I genuinely hope that they can get it across the line and stay in the division.
You'd like to have seen them be more active, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but as I say, it's very hard, Jeff. It's very hard to do business when you are, particularly when you want to stay in the Premier League, because it's very difficult. What Sunderland have done of taking players from Europe and brought them in. Now, that's more difficult to stay in the Premier League, to get them up and running. What you really want to do is actually go and get some experience and some players who have been in the Premier League, so your squad can look at them during the season and go, oh yeah, he knows what we know, and they can settle the squad down a bit. So I think all those 3 clubs will be looking at Premier League clubs, what they're going to move on.
Do you fear at all for Brentford this season, with Norgard gone and Mbeumo presumably going to be leaving? I know he says that it's not absolutely certain, and an unproven manager. Now look, Keith Andrew might turn out to be he might turn out to be another Thomas Frank, and let's hope from Brentford's point of view he does. But do you fear for them?
Yeah, I do a little bit, because you know, when you if they lose the 2 strikers, Norgard has already gone, then the pressure is going to be on. They have a tremendous record of promoting from within. Keith Andrews has now got the mantle, and obviously I wish him well. They're a great club, well-run club, but you've got to say, at this particular moment, if you're a Brentford fan, you are looking over your shoulder, always.
You might be looking at Wolves as well, by the way, because Wolves have sold a couple of big players, and whether Vitor Pereira can have the same impact this season, I hope from Wolves' point of view that he does, because he was brilliant. Yeah, surprised a lot of people when he came in last season.
Absolutely,
breath of fresh air.
Yeah, he was, and the way he interacted with the fans and that, they loved him.
Yeah.
So but I think Wolves, they're always kind of a eclectic mix of players from everywhere, and it's a hard group to bring together, and it don't always go well there. So I would fear for them too. But all the teams in that bottom 10, including Man United.
Whoa.
Yeah, well, you do. You need to have an eye on that club, because at the moment...
What, you worry that Manchester United could get involved in the relegation battle?
I genuinely do, because you've also got 5 first-team players, big fees, training on their own. That does not send the right message to the rest of the players in the training ground, because what players feel is that one day that might be me. All players feel that. So to have that currently going on in the background, the transfer business they've done, okay, they brought in the top player from Wolves, a very much a maverick player, great technical ability, of course, but that wasn't the bigger issue. The big issue is keeping goals out.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they haven't changed much from that.
Well, look, the lack of activity in the transfer window's got to worry Manchester United supporters. We hear rumours every day about player A, player B, player X, player Y coming to Old Trafford, and with the exception of Cunha, nothing's happened.
Well, it all hinges on these moving these 5 players.
Yeah,
It's almost
absolutely.
like a fire sale at the moment.
It is. Being forced to train on their own at 5 o'clock when the rest of the squad have left. Look, they're just our views, and of course, obviously, if you're a Leeds United fan, you'll hate the fact that I said, that they need to go out and spend some
I
more
didn't
money.
know. I'm coming for Leeds. Come on, Leeds.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're going for the populist vote of Leeds United supporters, and of course there is.
I just genuinely love them because obviously we're the same age, roughly. The Leeds, that great Leeds club, and the great years that they had. I'd love that to come back to the Premier League.
Brilliant. I mean, Leeds against Manchester United, Leeds against Liverpool, great days, and Elland Road is fantastic. It's such a buzzing place to watch your football, and I am slightly biased, of course, towards
One Club
Sunderland
City as well, which always helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick call on that. Dan is a Manchester United fan. Morning, Dan.
Morning.
So, Dan, is Alan right? A Manchester United in the relegation battle next season?
I'm just wondering where he's getting the facts from with regards to United signing of Cunha and that not being the issue. He said that stopping the ball going in the net was the issue. I'm wondering where he's got those figures from. And have you looked at the figures?
Well, I have looked. I see you got 18 defeats last year.
We did. But if you look, he's saying that stopping the ball going in the net was the problem. They conceded for 54
They're just
goals
one of your
last year.
problems, actually. But go on.
It was one of. It was, but we conceded 54 goals. Aston Villa conceded 51, Newcastle 47. Actually, putting the ball in the net was the biggest issue we had, and creating chances. And we've just signed a player that's going to improve us doing that.
Yeah, but well. In fairness, Dan, look, you might have signed a player who's going to improve you doing that, but Matheus Cunha is not an out-and-out goal scorer.
Oh, he's not going to solve everything. My frustrations is when we've got people on spouting nonsense that stopping the ball going in the net was the issue, and I don't think it was. If you watch Man United week in, week out, putting the ball in the net was our biggest problem. And if we get Mbeumo as well, I think that puts us in a good place moving into the season.
Well, you definitely need to alter your offense. There's no doubt about that. But the times that you were exposed, particularly, when you was coming onto teams with a little bit of lack of pace through the central areas was a problem. But I think,
that's going forward.
Listen, I've said to you, and I've said it on here, that it worries me that Man United are far away from anywhere near where they should be, and I know I don't need to tell you that.
Away. Yeah, we're miles away from where to be. Yeah.
And that's my point. It's just I feel for the manager, and he's got these 5 big hitters currently not training with a team, and I've done that job as a coach, taking that group, and it makes all the other players unsettled. Don't think, even though they're not coming across each other in the training ground at the moment, that they're not unsettled by it. It's a real worry.
Dan, thank you very much. Appreciate the call.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.